What is up, you guys? In today's video, I'm going to give you the complete beginner's guide to pricing your woodworking project step by step. Let's dive in. All right, welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to the channel. And as always, I'm your host, Vaught, and I'm super excited about walking you through the pricing strategies that are effective and why you should use them today inside of your woodworking or your custom furniture business. And so there's a couple other principles I want to give you today that will hopefully break some limiting beliefs that you have. I'm going to quickly tell you a story before I dive into these. And so I made a connection back in 2021 to a guy in Dallas. He actually had a showroom in the Dallas World Trade Center, and he had a bunch of really fine furniture, chandeliers, and he sold to really wealthy clients. And at this point in my business career, I really never dealt with wealthy people or people that really wanted fine goods, right? I was still really very much competing on price. I was trying to figure out how to position myself as a premium brand and figure a lot of these things out. And he called me one day and he said, "Hey, I've got this client and he's needing a coffee table. Do you think you can build me a coffee table?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, absolutely. I can build you a coffee table." Well, keep in mind, every coffee table I'd ever sold at that point was usually somewhere between like $250 or maybe like $600 was the most that I'd ever charged for a coffee table. And he sent me the design of what the guy was wanting. He said, "Hey, this is what the guy's wanting," kind of thinking. And he's like, what do you think you would charge for that?" And I looked at it, and it was kind of a complex design. It was a little more intricate than just our standard design. I'm like, well, I'm probably thinking, and I knew it was probably a wealthy guy. And I'm like, I'm thinking maybe $700, and I was saying it like, I don't know if that'll work or not. And he goes, "Oh no, man, you need to charge way more than that." And I was like, "What would you charge?" And this guy that deals with wealthy people all the time, he goes, "Oh man, I would charge probably $1,350 or $1,400 for that coffee table." And then what was funny is that he was then going to mark it up to sell it to this guy. So at that point, I'm like, okay, well, what do I have to lose? I was like, all right, let's go with $1,300. Because I was like, I don't want to push it too much. Maybe $1,300 is on the lower end of what you just told me. I was like, I'll charge $1,300. Talk to the client and see what we got. Well, he called me back like 30 minutes later. And he's like, all right, client's good. He's like, I'm marking it up a little bit. We sold it to him for $2,000. And he goes, "Oh, and by the way, this guy, he's a retired Dallas Cowboy." I never knew who the guy was. He couldn't tell me, but he said, "This is a retired Dallas Cowboy." But what it did in that moment was it taught me to not charge things based on what I would pay for them. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that I think a lot of woodworkers make is they say, "I would never buy a $5,000 table. I would never buy a $10,000 live edge table," or whatever that number is, because we're not trying to sell to us. We're trying to sell to a target demographic that values high quality goods and is willing to pay for them. Right? And also wants custom, right? That makes a big difference when it comes to what people are willing to pay. And so the 3 rules of pricing that I want to give you today to start is, number 1, don't price based on what you would pay. That's a huge mistake, and it's going to limit you in the long run. And by the way, I know that a lot of you that are watching this video right now are like, "Man, this is so true," because this is where we all start. Like, I'm like, I wouldn't pay more than $300 for that, but they would be willing to pay $1,000, right? So number 1, don't price based on what you would pay. You are not your customer. Number 2, don't price based on other woodworkers. And so a lot of times we don't know where to start. It's okay to kind of look at your competitors and see where they're pricing, but you don't want to stay there, right? You don't want to stay in that place where you're just competing based on price, but don't just price based on what other woodworkers are doing. Price based on the value of what you provide, and if you're doing an excellent job above and beyond what these other competitors are doing. And then rule number 3, and this one is so stinking important, I can't emphasize this enough, is that your prices must make your business sustainable. If you can't make profit in your business, you're not going to stay in business. You're going to be gone in a year. Profit is actually what allows you to grow. Profit is what allows you to be more comfortable. Profit is what allows you to pay for health insurance. Take your kids to get braces when they need it. Or they break their arm and they got to go to the ER and you got a $2,000 ER bill, right? Profit is what will allow you to live the life that you're trying to live. And you have to factor that into your prices. If you can't profit, you can't stay in business. If you just got these 3 principles out of this video, this is going to save you years of frustration with your pricing, okay? Don't price based on what you would pay. Don't price based on other woodworkers, and you got to make profit. Prices must make your business sustainable. Hey, I interrupt this video real quick to let you know about our Win Your Money Back challenge that we currently have going on inside of the Woodworking Business Accelerator program. We have never eliminated the risk to joining quite like this, and the reason that we're doing this is that we have found that there's a few things that all of our most successful clients have done. And so if you come into the Woodworking Business Accelerator program and you do a couple things that we know are going to generate results for you, and you generate just $5,000 in new custom furniture sales as a result of the program, we're going to give you all of that money back. Right? We're literally going to give you your money back to incentivize you to do the necessary action to drive results. And so click the link below, check out the Win Your Money Back Challenge. There's never been a better time to join with less risk than right now. So be sure to check that out. And with that, let's jump back in the video. So let me give you the formula for pricing based on where you're at in your business journey. I've got a beginner pricing formula, intermediate pricing formula, and a pro pricing formula. And I think these are going to really help you. So number one is the beginner pricing formula. How do I price things when I'm a beginner? I've really never built anything quite like this before. I'm trying to learn on the fly. And so what we want to do is we want to gather what information we do know, and then we want to price based on that. When it comes to pricing, I am usually looking at what do I have in material costs and what am I going to have in labor costs? And then we're going to price off of that information. Well, when you're a beginner, you have no idea how long it's going to take you. You might think it's going to take you 10 hours, but it might take you 20, right? You don't really know, but try to estimate your best guess. But the thing that is a good place to start, right? We don't want to stay here forever. I want to emphasize that. I want all of you haters and trolls that are going to give me crap about this to hear this. We're not staying here forever. This is to get us started, okay? So what I want to do is I want to add up all my material costs in the project. So wood, glue, screws, stain, finish, biscuits or dominoes, everything that makes up the product. I want to add all that up together and get a number. And then I want to take that number and I want to divide it by 0.3, not by 3, by 0.3. So for example, just for easy math, let's say that I'm quoting a project, a custom table, for example, and it's going to cost me $300 in materials. Well, I would get my calculator out and I'd say, okay, I got $300 in materials. What is the least amount of money that I should sell this project for? I'm gonna go 300 divided by 0.3, and that's gonna give me $1,000. That would be the least amount of money that I should sell that project for. The reason that I use this formula is that I don't ever wanna spend more than 30% in material costs on a project. And so this, by the way, is where that 0.3 number comes from. Materials divided by 0.3. Well, Zach, you have no idea what you're going to pay in labor. How can you even use that formula? Again, this is to get you started. This is to give you a safe number that's you're not gonna massively underbid this project, and you're also not gonna overbid it to the point that you're out of the market. The market's like, well, you're crazy, dude. I would never spend that much money, right? And also, by the way, remember, you're a beginner at this point. You don't have a reputable brand. You don't have a bunch of reviews. You don't have a bunch of content. You don't have a website yet. You're getting your feet wet and you're starting, okay? So this is what I tell everybody that comes into the Woodworking Business Accelerator program that is pretty green, doesn't really know. Material cost divided by 0.3, okay? That is your beginner pricing formula. Your intermediate pricing formula is when you've done some projects and you get a better gauge on labor. This is where you can get a little bit more accurate with your quoting and your pricing structure. But what I want to do is I want to figure out materials and roughly estimate labor. And I don't want to have more than 50% of a project price in materials and labor ever, right? So if I'm selling it for $2,000, I don't want to be in that product for more than $1,000. If I'm selling it for $5,000, I don't want to be in that product for more than $2,500 with materials and labor. This is, again, an intermediate pricing formula. The reason is that you by this point, you're starting to grow. You need profits. You need to be able to pay rent. You need to be able to pay employees. You need to be able to pay overhead. You need to be able to pay for the tool that breaks that you got to go fix. Pay for the screw up that you didn't realize that you made and you got to go pick up the product and bring it back and fix it. And if you're just pricing on like, well, as long as I pay for the materials and, I can charge $30 an hour and I'll just charge them that. Well, you're never going to grow a sustainable business that way. Right? You've got to price with profits built in, like I said at the beginning. So materials plus labor times 2 would be the lowest price you should sell that project for. So back to our example, we got $300 in material costs. Let's say we got $200 in labor costs. What do I got? I got $500 in total costs with materials and labor. And again, this is not factoring in overhead yet because the other 50% is going to help cover your overhead. So I would take 500 times 2. The least amount of money I should sell that project for is $1,000, okay? Again, I keep saying the least amount of money. If you can sell that project for $2,000, have at it, right? Sell it for $2,000 and you're gonna have a lot of profit that you can reinvest back in the business. Get the tools that you need, hire employees, run more ads to drive more leads, to get more sales, whatever, right? But the least amount of money is $1,000 that you should sell that project for, okay? Keep in mind here you still don't have a reputable brand. You still don't have a reputable company yet at this intermediate pricing structure formula. Now, let's move on to pro pricing. Okay, this is for those of you that have a more established brand. When I say more established, I mean that you've been in the game for 2 or 3 years or longer, have tons of reviews on Facebook or on Google. You've got a lot of content that you're putting out. Maybe you are growing and you have maybe a part-time or a full-time employee. You're to the point now where you're starting to have a well-known name and a reputable brand in your local area. Okay, this is where it starts getting fun because you can start justifying higher prices because you have a brand, you have a name, you have, yeah, I've been doing this for 5 years. I'm really good at this. Here's a big giant catalog of all my work, right? And so what we do here is we bake in a little bit more profit so that you can scale a little bit more rapidly. Okay, so we're gonna go materials plus labor to get our total cost in the project. And then instead of just multiplying that by 2, we're gonna multiply that by 2.2 to 2.5, depending on how aggressive you can be. In this example, we would have 500 in material costs times 2.2. I would be selling this for, at the minimum, $1,100. So with this is really gonna help you get ahead. And this is one of the things that I just want to continue to emphasize for you guys is that financially speaking, you should not be striving to just survive. You should be striving to figure out, how do I get ahead? How do I make some headway financially for the business and for our personal finances, for our family? How do we save some money and invest? And how do we start planning for retirement? These are the types of questions that you need to be thinking through, especially if you're trying to be a business owner, you're trying to grow something meaningful. So the last thing that I'll leave you with on this video, the biggest mistake that beginners make is apologizing for their price. A lot of times we work up a price, we're like, gosh, that seems expensive. And so when we deliver it to our clients or we deliver it to the people that we're trying to quote it to, we're almost like hesitant to say it. I came up with $1,400. Does that sound okay? Like, no, cut that out. Quit doing that. Whatever price you come up with based on the formula that you're using, deliver it with confidence. One of the biggest sales techniques, biggest sales strategies I can give you to closing more deals is just talk about money like it's no big deal. Just because you wouldn't spend it doesn't mean that they're not. And so the money is just what it costs to do business with me. I offer a premium service, a premium product for exactly what you're looking at. You're looking at around $3,500. What are your thoughts on that? Right? We still want to get feedback, but confidence is what sells. And by the way, just so you know, when you sell everything dirt cheap and don't make any money, you're going to close all kinds of deals and you're going to feel super successful and be broke as a joke. Okay. When you start pricing the right way, you're not going to close as many deals. But when you do close deals, you're going to profit on those deals and actually start making some headway in your business. And this is the big conundrum that everybody faces, right? Everyone just starts coming in and their competitive advantage is, I'm just going to undercut everybody in the market. They start stealing a bunch of business, but it's a race to the bottom. They hate their life. They hate their business. And that's not what you're trying to build. You're trying to build a business that you love, that's profitable, that helps you build the life outside of your business that you're pursuing. So those are my encouragements for you today in this video. Hopefully this is helpful. And I got a couple resources for you before you go. Number one is the Handmade Business Secrets ebook. It's a completely free book that I wrote that really outlines my story of going from starting in my garage, having no idea what I was doing, to ultimately scaling to beyond $70,000 per month with a team of 6 or 7 employees, 6,600 square foot shop, a showroom, etc., etc. And I'm giving that to you for free. First link in the description below, go check that out. Number two is the Handmade Hero Academy program. For those of you that are trying to go to the next level and you're just starting out, you're green, you don't know what to do, and you're needing some counsel, you're needing some wisdom, this is a low cost investment that's really going to give you the business acumen and business principles that you need to get to the next level, which is that first $5,000 a month, or that first $10,000 a month, right? And then lastly, we have the Woodworking Business Accelerator program. And this is for those of you looking at your woodworking business, your custom furniture business, and you're like, man, I need a marketing strategy. I need help with sales. I want a strategic partner to come alongside me and help me in my business and help me take it to the next level. And we got guys in there that are doing, $15,000 a month, and we got guys that are doing $100,000 a month inside that program that started at $2 or $3 grand a month, that have taken the action steps that we've provided and strategically and systematically scaled their company. And so if that is you and you're looking for help to do that, we would love to connect with you, see if it's a good fit, and if we can help you move the needle in that part of your business. And so with that, love and appreciate you guys as always, and I will see you in the next one.